Okay, okay, calm down. I know that you're impatient to talk about the latest with Romeo and Juliet, but did you hear about Paris? Yeah, I thought we'd heard the last of him too, but no. Turns out he actually had a thing for Juliet. You know what that lovesick fool did? He actually showed up at the Capulet tomb at night. I know! What a weirdo, right? Also, remember, didn't he meet Juliet the same night that Romeo did? Yeah, at the ball. That's what I thought. Okay, so like both Romeo and Paris like fall in love with her on the same night. I want to know what she's got going on for her that I don't. I mean, get it, girl, but man, two guys, both in love. Crazy. So anyway, Paris and his servant show up there at the Capulet tomb, right? And Paris has this bouquet of flowers because he's going to put flowers on her grave because that's like so sweet and romantic. In fact, he even says like, I'm going to cry and bring flowers every single night. Like, ugh, come on. Is everybody just this melodramatic all the time? That sounds exhausting. Anyhow, he tells the servant like, just watch and make sure that like, nobody comes along while I'm crying and giving flowers because that would be embarrassing. So Paris is like getting ready to go in the tomb when suddenly the servant is all like, "Cuckoo! Somebody's coming!" And so Paris hides. And do you know who showed up right then? It's not guards. No. No, it's not even Friar Lawrence, although he should be there already. It's Romeo and his servant Balthazar. Crazy, right? Like, weren't they 3 hours away in Mantua or something? How did they get there so fast? Those are some speedy horses. Anyway, so they show up. Romeo gives Balthazar this letter for his dad. And he's like, hey, I'm just going to go into the tomb and get my ring back from Juliet and like kind of say my goodbyes. He does not mention the fact that he has this whole bottle of poison strong enough to kill 20 men. And instead, he's just like, get out of here. Go. You got to give that letter to my dad. I don't want to see you back here. And when Balthazar kind of hesitates a little bit, he yells at him. He's like, I'm going to tear you joint from joint. Like, whoa, Romeo, I always thought you were kind of like the sensitive type, but ever since he killed Tybalt, it seems like he's just ready to throw hands over nothing. Anyway, Balthazar like pretends he's gonna leave, but he just low-key hides because he's totally worried about Romeo. I mean, I'm a little worried about Romeo too. Like, guy keeps talking about suicide. He's got a bottle of poison with him. Pretty sure something bad's gonna happen. So, Romeo heads over to the tomb, rips the door of the tomb off practically, and then does this kind of weird metaphor thing where he compares the door to like a mouth of a monster. And he's like, I'm going to feed myself to this monster and make the belly of the monster more full. And anyway, I guess that's his poetic, sensitive, like self coming out again. Anyway, just as he's about to jump into the tomb to find Juliet, Paris jumps out of the bushes like some sort of a creeper and challenges Romeo to a fight because he thinks Romeo is there to deface the bodies. Like, ew, Paris, why you gotta think like that? Don't. Ew. Oh, I know. How do you think Romeo responded? Did you hear? Huh. Well, I was pretty surprised. He actually tries to stop Paris from throwing down right there in the graveyard. Paris keeps coming at him, though, and Romeo just gives in, and finally they fight, and Romeo kills Paris with his sword. Like, I did not see that coming. Did you see that coming? I did not see that coming. Like, of all the people in this play, I did not expect Paris to kick off. Anyway, as he's dying there on the ground, he asks to be laid next to Juliet, and Romeo agrees, and only after Paris is dead does he, like, bother to look at his face and is like, oh, this is Paris. That's like Mercutio's cousin, who is the prince's cousin. Not great. Like, he has got to stop stabbing people and, like, not thinking about the consequences. He's totally been the stab first, ask questions later sort of guy. He's got to stop that. So, I mean, he did kill Paris, so he's got to, like, honor his last wishes. So he drags Paris into the tomb, and that's when he sees Juliet. And did you hear how Romeo reacted when he saw Juliet? Like, I just want to smack him. But of course, like, it's too late now. Like, I missed my opportunity. But, like, he looks at her and he's like, oh, you're too pretty to be dead. And he talks for ages about how beautiful she is and how death doesn't have any power over her beauty. And, like, all this kind of stuff. Like, your cheeks are red, your lips are red, like, you're so beautiful. How is it that, like, you're dead? It doesn't look like you're dead. So all of these, like, red flags and, like, bright blinking red lights are trying to, like, warn him that maybe he should just slow down a minute. But does he bother to even take a pulse? No. Does he chill for even just a minute? No. He just throws back the whole bottle of poison and then collapses after kissing her. Like, way to be hasty, man. Anyway, he's dead. Paris is dead. Juliet's lying there as though she's dead. And do you know who shows up when it's too late? Freaking Friar Lawrence. Like, why did it take him so long to get there? Romeo had to take a horse all the way from Mantua, and he still beat Friar Lawrence? I'm starting to think Friar Lawrence wasn't really all that concerned. Anyhow, so Friar Lawrence shows up, and Balthazar jumps out of the shadows and all like, hey, Friar, I'm like worried about my boy Romeo. He's been in the tomb for like a half an hour. And Friar Lawrence does this thing where you know he realizes he done messed up. Know what I mean? And he says, I fear some ill unlucky thing. Like, no joke, dude. What was your first clue? The blood? The swords? What? Oh, actually, it really was the blood. No, really. Like, he looks around, he's like, oh, there's blood here. I should go in the tomb and see if there's anything wrong. Gosh, dude. So he finally goes in. He sees a dead Paris. He sees a dead Romeo. And just then, Juliet starts to wake up. Like, what are the odds? Now, here's where you know Lawrence is just a straight up coward. Did you know what he does to Juliet when she wakes up? He leaves her there. Yeah. I know. He says, oh, I hear a guard coming and I don't want to get caught here with a bunch of dead bodies. So he says, stay not to question for the watch is coming. Come, go, good Juliet. And then he dips. Like, he expects a girl who just woke up from a coma he drugged her into to just jump up and be awake enough to run with him. I mean, when I woke up this morning, it took me a good 15 minutes before I felt awake enough to get out of bed. Juliet's been in a drugged coma for 46 hours. There's no way she's just gonna, like, sprint after him, am I right? So Lawrence abandons her, and then, like, she starts to, like, wake up, and she looks around, she notices the dead Paris, the dead Romeo. She finds the poison bottle, which of course is empty because Romeo drank it all. So she tries to do the next best thing. And she's like, oh, Romeo, you're still warm. And she tries to kiss him to get some poison off his lips, but no dice. And so you know what she finally does? You know what she does? She takes his dagger and she stabs herself with it. Like, that's it. She wakes up and 30 seconds later, she kills herself. Like, wow. She did not waste any time about that. Finally, the guards show up. The guards that Paris was worried about, that Romeo was worried about, that Friar Lawrence was worried about. They finally show up. And here's what I want to know, is where were they this whole time? Like, were they sleeping on the job? Romeo and Paris had a whole fight in the middle of the night, and they are nowhere to be found. Whatever. Anyway, they call everybody out to the tomb in the middle of the night. And here's why I have another problem. It took Friar Lawrence 3 hours to get Juliet from his cell. But Prince Aeschylus, Lord and Lady Capulet, and Lord Montague all just show up instantly. Friar Lawrence really should have been a little quicker to get to that graveyard. But that's beside the point. They all show up and everyone starts to tell their version of events, and we learn that Lady Montague is dead from grief because of Romeo's banishment. I guess that's another death we can blame on Romeo. Anyway, so Friar Lawrence finally spills the tea about everything he's been involved in from the very beginning. And at least he acknowledges that at least some of this is his fault, saying that if somebody's going to get punished, it should probably be him. But everybody just kind of like passes on that. They kind of ignore that moment. And Balthazar gives the prince the letter that Romeo wrote for his dad. And the letter basically kind of fills in all the gaps and confirms what Friar Lawrence said. And everybody is just like, yeah, makes sense. But Prince Aeschylus, he is mad. He's furious. He yells at Capulet and Montague, saying, look at what your hate has done. I've lost 2 cousins and you've both lost your children. He's the first one to talk sense in ages. Capulet finally is like, oh, geez, Montague, I'm sorry. I guess we screwed up or something. And Montague's like, yeah, I know. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to build a statue of Juliet in Verona. A statue. He's going to build a statue of Juliet. Capulet's all like, cool. But the prince is just like, never was there a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. What a waste, you know? That Juliet and Romeo had to die to make their families realize that feuds are dumb. Well, now we can talk about what we really think. Whose fault is this whole mess? If we go back to the beginning, where could things have had a different outcome if only one thing had changed? What might we change? I mean, think of the whole story as a chain of events, or like dominoes, where one knocks into another. If you could take out one domino to stop the events from happening, which one would you take out? Oh, interesting. Tell me more.